Hello, everybody. Am I live? Can you hear me? I had to look on this other phone. Going to get a cream soda. Cream soda, I like that. And hello from Italy. Ciao. I hope everybody's doing well. People are staying healthy and in their homes, if that's what your local guidelines say. I'm going a little bit cuckoo crazy being at home. I don't like it at all. Sorry. Type. Okay, I think I am on. Type something. Somebody, so I know you can hear me. I'm gonna type something. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Today, my beer of choice is, oh, I'm on, good. Okay, today my beer of choice is a Juicy Ass IPA Flying Monkeys. This is one of my favorite beers. Something that's like my go-to when I go to the LCBO here in Ontario. And it's a really hoppy, bright, refreshing IPA. So cheers to everyone on this Saturday. Okay, great. Hi from Dallas. Dallas, I've only been to El Paso in Texas. I haven't been anywhere else, but I hear Dallas is really nice, as well as Houston. Well, actually, no, I heard Austin's the best, but I don't know because I haven't been to any of the three. Okay, 5,000 piece puzzle. Oh my goodness. You know, I heard jigsaw puzzles are like the new toilet paper. Everyone's buying them because they're stuck at home. So if you want to do a jigsaw puzzle, buy them now before other people catch on. And Georgia and the Netherlands. Almeria, Spain. Okay, let's do a question. So this question was sent to me from Marguerite. I just wrote it down here. Is there a specific direction to set up your tent in terms of wind direction? Yes, definitely. Because if it's blowing really hard, you don't want the flat part of the tent hitting it because it's just gonna, try and knock it over. So I try to angle my tent kind of aerodynamically into the wind. Sometimes it's not possible because of what the ground is like, if it's really wet or sloping, but also the wind does change direction. So sometimes you go through all the work of setting up your tent and then the wind totally changes, and you know what, I just kind of give up. I set up my tent one time and I usually don't mess with it afterwards unless it falls over. That very rarely happens, but there have been times where the trekking pole has been knocked out, partly because of me, partly because of the wind. And okay, Czech Republic, Belgium beer, Scotland. Okay, and let's have another question from Marguerite. Because when I was on the Cumel circuit, I put my filter into a really silty glacier water. And so she asked me a question if my filter broke because of that milky water. No, it didn't break. I was afraid it was gonna clog, but it wasn't so bad. So when a glacier, the glacier grinds up really fine rock particles, and that's what makes those rivers look so milky. It's actually like little tiny bits of rock, and so you don't really want to be drinking that. Some people say it's okay for your digestive system, but I don't want to eat rocks, so why would I want to drink rocks? And so ideally I should have pre-filtered it, maybe with my buff or my bandana, to take out some of the large before using my filter. But I knew I only had a few days on the trek, so even if my filter did get clogged or sluggish, there was enough clear water. I'm sure I could have drank without filtering, so I didn't worry about it too much. Okay, a question here from David and Moose. What's your favorite app when walking the Camino? I don't really have one go-to app, because if you're walking one of the more popular routes, like the Norte, there's lots of apps available. But if I'm walking something that doesn't get walked as often or not as popular, like the Mozarbe, there's no like defined app that's really great. So I like to use Maps.me. Maps.me is a free program. I just download it on my phone, and then I download for offline viewing the maps of the areas that I'm going through. So even if I don't have Wi-Fi or cell connection, I can always see where my location is on the maps. And then there are people who have walked those Caminos before, and some people put those GPS tracks available online. And so if you do a Google search, you can usually find it. It doesn't cost any money if you sign up for something like Wikiloc, and then you can download the route onto your phone, and so you can see the line and follow the line. So you know if you're veering off course. Now the Camino does change quite often and does get redirected, and so it's always better to follow the yellow arrows rather than whatever is on the app, because it could be outdated. Okay, and question here, how do you finance your hikes? This is a very popular question for me. So I live as a minimalist. So even when I was working, I didn't spend money on clothing or, like getting my hair cut. Actually, I have my hair now for over 2 years. Maybe I should give myself one of these quarantine haircuts. I just tried to live as simply as possible because I wanted to save all my money for experiences rather than material things within my home. So I saved up a lot of money when I was working, and then I took on a lot of extra shifts. I was working a lot of weekends. Sometimes I only had 1 day off for the entire month, sometimes 2 days off. I picked up other kinds of gigs, like going to focus groups where I was paid to evaluate a product or a service. I did mystery shopping, where I would, like for example, I went to the YMCA and I pretended to be someone that wanted a membership, and I did a tour all around the YMCA, and then I wrote a report on what kind of services they offered to me, how the friendliness of the person there, the cleanliness, that kind of thing. I also mystery shopped airlines before, so I got free flights, and I mystery shopped a driving school even, and so I got paid a little bit of money to learn how to drive. And actually I didn't really learn how to drive because when I took the test I failed, so I still don't have a driver's license, but I mystery shopped the driving company. So and then like there's all these like little things I was doing to earn extra money. And so when I saved up enough that I knew could be able to travel and live simply for a few years, then I told my work I was leaving, and that was that. So I don't really have any income at this time other than a little bit of YouTube revenue, which is very, very small, and a little bit through Patreon, and yeah, that's about it. So I don't really have any other way. Oh, and I'm ambassador for a few different organizations, so that really helps with the gear expenses. Another question. Yeah, just wondering about the filter since you got sick. Yeah, I did get some kind of stomach problems in Patagonia. I don't know where I picked it up, but there were times I didn't drink filtered water, so it's probably when I did that. Who knows, maybe I broke my filter. Hi from California. Hi, Petra. Oh, Willard. Willard is on. She saves money by not buying pots and pans. Do you mean me? I don't cook. You're right, I do save money by not using pots and pans. I've always kind of, I do weird things. For example, like pizza, I don't like to bother putting it on a plate. I just eat it straight out of the box and then put the box in the fridge and then keep eating it out of the box. Yeah, that's what he's talking about, no pots and pans. Hi from Maryland. What will be your next destination? I don't know because of COVID-19 and travel restrictions that are in place. So I had a bunch of different plans. I should be in the United States right now. Actually, I should be maybe on the Pacific Crest Trail, finishing up some sections that were closed for fire that I couldn't complete in 2018. But you know, it's totally all up in the air. I have my backpack pretty much packed and ready to go, like to put it on and go out the door the moment the guidelines have been lifted and it's safe to do so. Until then, I'm just hoping that you know, things start to improve rather than get worse. But who knows? Who knows? Are you cooking now? I don't really cook. No, I haven't made one thing since I came home. It's a lot of easy stuff. How do you cope with not hiking? Oh man, it is hard. Really, really hard. Especially when I see like photos people are posting of like their past Caminos or their past through hikes, and it just takes me back to remember the happy memories I've had, and I'm like, yeah, I want to do that again. That's when I feel like I'm my best self, when I'm out in the wilderness or I'm out on an adventure. And so I feel like I'm just wasting away here, you know, in this little apartment. And I just keep thinking, you know, this is temporary. Things could be a lot worse. There's people that are going through a lot of rough times, and I'm fortunate to have a place where I'm secure and comfortable. So, you know, don't try and things will get better. And I did apply for some temporary work at the hospital, but I think like their hiring is everything's frozen because everything to do with COVID-19 takes precedent. So I don't think I'm going to be able to work while I'm home, but my next step is to see if I can do something in a volunteer capacity at the hospital, because I really need to get out and feel useful. Marge heard that the Great Trail is open. I don't think any trail is open, because there's just an announcement today, even in the province of Ontario, that you're forbidden to camp on Crown land, government land. So they're really shutting that down. Question here: how heavy was your backpack when you walked the Via de la Plata, and what basics did you take? I had a teeny tiny little backpack. Do I have it beside me here? No. It's about this big. And I thought to myself, I'm just gonna go like as light as possible. And I found that was a mistake, because I was walking in the winter time, and it was my first time kind of doing a Camino that wasn't as well traveled as the other ones. And a lot of the albergues did not have blankets. Or they did have blankets, but it was still really cold, and I should have brought and carried some extra weight with things to make me more comfortable in that cold, wet weather, because I had snow and sleet, and just to have a heavier backpack would have made my experience more enjoyable. So lighter is not always necessarily better. Marge, I love your colorful shoes. Which make the shoes that I wear are the Salomon Odyssey Triple Crown, and the color scheme, that's all rainbow colors, is their magic. So Salomon developed those hiking shoes with long distance walkers in mind, going on the Pacific Crest Trail or the Appalachian Trail. So they're really, really comfortable. The sole doesn't wear down quickly, which is great, because when you're on like a lot of asphalt and things, sometimes that can go. And then when you get to something a little bit more gnarly, you don't have the same kind of slip protection. And they're lightweight and they're breathable. They're not waterproof, which I like, because then I can just go through puddles. It doesn't matter if it's a sunny day and they get soaked, then they usually dry up in an hour or two. So I don't mind them. Any more questions? No more questions at this time? Yeah. So, what do you wear in a winter hike to keep warm besides the beer? Like winter backpacking, like in a tent, or when I'm just okay. Well, let's just use the Camino Primitivo as an example. I was walking in the snow there, but I knew I did have camping stuff with me, but I knew I didn't have to camp at night and set up. So when you know you have the possibility to get warm or maybe have like a hot meal at the end of the day, your clothing choices don't become as critical as if you are actually camping out in the snow and setting up your tent in the snow, because that could be something life-threatening if you're not prepared. So I get really sweaty and hot while walking, even when it's cold. So for me, just wearing like my regular hiking tights with waterproof pants over top, walking in snow, and then just like my regular like rain jacket with merino wool fleece underneath, that's fine. I don't ever wear my puffy jacket hiking. Maybe a few rare exceptions first thing in the morning, but because with a puffy down jacket, if the down gets wet from snow or from sweat, if you're sweating wearing it with layers, then it's useless. I always like to keep my warm puffy jacket totally pristine, like tucked in the bottom of my backpack, so I know it's there for me if I need it. I have a layer that I can get really warm with. Another question from Marge. Ordering gear from the States costs quite a lot. Any solutions? Well, I guess it depends on your geography if you're living in Canada. I live in Kitchener, which is about 90 minutes away from the US border at Niagara Falls. So on the other side of the US border, in Niagara Falls, New York, and I can even walk to it from Niagara Falls, Canada over the bridge, there is a place called American Mailbox. And so I send all my stuff to American Mailbox, and then it costs me a few dollars each package for them to hold it and for when I come to pick it up. And it's very reliable. I've never lost a package. The fellow who works there, he knows me because I come in, you know, when I come back to Canada and get gear. And then I can take it over the border into Canada without paying all the extra shipping fees. And I should mention that you will need to declare and pay duty on these packages unless you spend a certain amount of time in the United States. And then there's like, if you spend 24 hours, you can bring in so much money and goods over, etc. So there is some legal stuff with it. And on your Camino, you're sleeping in a bivvy. What is that exactly? Okay. So I have a bivvy. I don't usually bring it with me on trip because I have a full tent. But I thought that I might have been sleeping with my bivvy outside under the stars because I was planning on hiking the Camino de Levante after I was done the Camino Primitivo. That was my plan. And on the Levante, there's some really, really large distances, and there's like some parks and natural areas that you go through. And I thought it'd be really great if the weather was nice to have some nights under the stars. So rather than setting up a full tent. So the bivvy sack is just like, it's kind of like a sleeping bag. The bottom of it is waterproof. On top there's a bit of material, and it covers your head as well in like a mesh. Do I have it? I have some camping stuff right over here. No, I don't have it. Covers your head with this mesh, and then you can zip it up so no mosquitoes can get you. It's not waterproof on the top, just on the bottom. And I use a quilt, and so it's also helpful to stop drafts from coming in under the quilt. And so then I decided, since I have it with me, I might as well use it in the albergues to keep the bed bugs away. So because I I can zip myself totally up, and the bed bugs can't penetrate the fabric or the mesh. And so there was, I think, at least minimum of three occasions where I woke up in the night seeing bed bugs. So I was glad I had the Bivvy with me. And the reason why I didn't do the Camino Levante was because I took more time on the Camino San Salvador and the Camino Primitivo, and then I took a week off in Santiago de Compostela, and then I was running out of time to do the Levante, so I had to save it because unexpected things happened on the Salvador. Okay, American mailbox. Oh, Suzanne, one question about your shoes. Do they dry quick so your feet don't stay wet? Okay, so they do dry quickly when it's like a hot sunny day. Now, if you're walking in a lot of like mud puddles and doing frequent water crossings and it's overcast and drizzly, yeah, they're not going to dry. You know, what I do at night if they're still soaked is I take out the insole, and that usually dries, and I kind of like open up my shoes, and then in the morning they're not sopping wet, they might be a little bit damp. And you can always switch your socks too if you have extra socks if your shoes are still wet in the morning. But I hate boots. I find like the higher collar of the boot causes a lot of rubbing and blisters for me on the back of my ankles, so I always prefer the lower cut shoes. And my feet get really hot and sweaty in waterproof shoes because there's no breathing, and then that causes more rubbing and more blisters. So that's why I can't do the Gore-Tex shoes. And Willard, is Daryl there with you for a question? No, he's not. It's just me. Sorry, Willard. Marge, do you use a sleeping bag liner? Usually with my quilt, usually not, because I don't really like the liners because I find like it's too like constricting. I like with my quilt, if I'm hot, I can stick my leg out or whatever, but I do use the sleeping bag liner if I'm in the albergue and I don't have a sleeping bag with me. Then yeah, I will take the liner because it helps against the bed bugs. And also if I am using the albergue blankets, those blankets, like they're on a different body every night. They rarely get washed or cleaned. Some of them smell really bad, so I don't want that against my skin. I don't like it. John B, ever walked the Bruce Trail? I have done some sections on the Bruce Trail. I've never done it overnight. I have completed like the Dufferin Highlands section, and I've completed most of the Niagara and Iroquois section, but I haven't done the whole thing. And that was actually one of my plans that I was going to do this month. Like if I couldn't travel outside of Canada and restrictions weren't too harsh, I was going to go on the Bruce Trail because I don't live too far away from it. And that's about a 30-day hike one way. So I'm kind of sad, but Bruce Trail's closed. I can't go on it. Those flights you had organized were unbelievable cheap. How do you do that? Well, airline and travel hacking is like a whole other thing. If you can go down a rabbit hole and do a whole bunch of research online, ways to like find airfares and kind of trick fares and crazy secretive things. A lot of time it's just kind of knowing what a fair price is for a flight and knowing when companies normally have a lot of sales going up and down. For example, and there is also like the tricks that you can do. I'll give you one example. The cost from Vancouver to Toronto for a flight could be, say, $500 with WestJet, okay? The cost from Vancouver to Cancun with WestJet could be $150, but that plane stops in Toronto first and then continues down to Cancun. So it's dumb because it's the exact same flight from Vancouver to Toronto, but they're pricing it at $500 if you just want to go that way. You could go and book a flight from Vancouver to Cancun, and then when the plane stops in Toronto, be like, peace out, I'm out of here, and just leave the airport. And then you've got your flight to Toronto for just $150. Like, airlines are so weird. But if you take the time, you can see some patterns and some strange things. I also have a lot of airline points, and so it costs me maybe like $200 in airline points to get from Santiago, Chile back home to Toronto. Like, that's insanely cheap. But I earned those points by opening up credit cards, reaching the minimum spend, keeping the credit cards for a few months, and then closing the credit cards, and then reapplying for another credit card. So I don't know. I have to be really creative because I don't have a lot of funds to travel when I'm traveling. Ugh. Okay. During your hike in Patagonia, you walked through very lonely places. Were you afraid at any time? Did you encounter a puma? I wish I encountered a puma. My goodness. I've never seen a mountain lion / puma ever before. I've also never seen a jaguar in the wild. So I've never seen one of these big American cats. I've seen tigers in the wild. I've seen lions in the wild. I've seen cheetahs. I've seen leopards and some other kinds of cats in Africa and Asia. But none, unfortunately, in South America. So I wasn't really afraid at all, because the chance of a puma attacking a hiker is almost nil. Like, I don't look like food to them, and I'm not like prey for them. They have plenty of those guarancos hopping around to feed on. So I've never heard of a puma hurting anyone in Patagonia. Perhaps it's happened. I'm sure it's happened, but I didn't worry. Janie, you're drinking a beer. Cheers. Question from Suzanne. What's your favorite type of beer? Well, it changes all the time. It depends on my mood. When I'm cold or it's the winter time, I like those big, heavy, thick stouts. When it's summertime, I prefer something, when I'm out in the fresh air and the sunshine, I prefer something lighter, like a Session IPA or Hefeweizen. Lately, since I've been home, I've been drinking a lot of IPAs. Like, this one is 6.5%, I think. Yeah, 6.5%. Sometimes even the double IPAs, which can be like 9%. And I also really like red ales, kind of switch it up with a bit of malty flavor. So yeah, I like a lot of different beers. This is kind of like asking what's your favorite type of wine. It depends on what you're eating and what your mood is. Finally subscribed. You've paused your Patreon, but you're still posting content for us. Yeah, it's the world is. Don't worry. Yeah, I'll be fine here. I feel like if I'm not actually out traveling and doing adventures, then it's kind of like I put my long distance hiking life on hold for the moment. Okay. I wanted to show you guys my newest backpack. So this is a backpack from Six Moon Designs. It is their Daybreaker. So I've just used this kind of walking around since I've been home, just kind of like some day hikes. I can't really do a day hike anymore because I'm staying in my neighborhood, but before the restrictions got tight. So this is a backpack that I'm not used to because it has a lot of features. I'm just used to really simple stuff. So like on the lid, there's a zipper pocket, as well as there's a zipper pocket inside here, and nice big pocket on the outside that kind of expands out. Pockets here, pockets on the straps, blah blah blah. So it's hard. I can't really give a review on the backpack because I haven't loaded it up with heavy stuff and walked with it for a few days. I probably need like a week to really get to know a backpack to see if you're going to be a good friend or just an acquaintance in my backpack arsenal. But I do like the color. I think it's a great bright blue color, and I like the Six Moons design because it's really yellow, reminds me of the Camino. So when I am able to go on the Camino again, I'm gonna take this backpack with me. So I'll show you that. And I have some other questions. How are you keeping yourself busy? Any other hobbies? I've been playing a lot of I can play online, something called Jackbox TV. So it's really, really cool. Normally you're with a whole bunch of friends and you're all sitting together watching a computer screen, and then it could be a trivia game where the trivia is coming up on the big screen, and then you're answering secretly on your phone, or it could be like a Pictionary type thing where you're drawing pictures and people trying to guess what it is or pick their favorite, etc. And so I can play that game with my family members who are in different cities because we don't want to get together because everyone's supposed to be separate. So I've been playing a lot of games in my time since I've been home. You know what? I should be organizing my camping stuff and I haven't gotten around to it. Also, I was finishing up on my Patagonia videos. I just have one more Patagonia video to make. It's not really an exciting one. It's just showing how I left Patagonia and the flights and the buses and the things I had to do to leave Patagonia. After that, I'm going to start making some videos. I've gotten a whole bunch of suggestions from you guys. Like I'm going to make a video about how I use this thing. If you guys don't know what this is my pea style. It's purple. Oh, okay. I think it's back on. So I do have a big list of videos. The Camino gear video is, I think, at the top of the list. But if there's other ones, you can just let me know. And Jeff. Hi, Jeff. Did you ever go back to Kilimanjaro with a camera? So I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro many, many years ago as part of my around the world trip when I was younger. And 2 weeks into the first part of my trip, which was going to be a 10-month trip, I broke my camera. So I traveled for 3.5 months by myself in Africa with a tent and traveling in India and in Southeast Asia, and I had no camera. And this is before cell phones. I had no smartphone, I had nothing. And I saw it as a sign that my camera broke, so I was just gonna enjoy everything in the moment and not take photos. So I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and I only have one photo from that trip. One of the porters took a photo of me with a film camera because, like I said, it was a long time ago, with the sign at Kilimanjaro, and he mailed it from Tanzania back to me in Canada like 8 months later. I remember when it came in the mail and I was like, whoa, I never expected to receive it. So, and I thought at the time that was the right thing to do. Now I kind of maybe think it would have been better if I did buy another camera, because there's a lot of experiences and wonderful things that I did that only exist up in my memory. So I worry if my memory starts to go, some of those memories might fade away without being able to be jogged with a photo. Where did you get the backpack? Oh, I'm ambassador for Six Moons Designs. So they sent me this backpack. I requested it. Then they sent it to me, actually. How do you get travel medical insurance? Oh, what's the model backpack? This is the Six Moons Design Daybreaker backpack. But I haven't used it with heavy carry, so I don't know how it rides yet. I just know I like the outside. That's all I'm telling you guys. How do I get travel medical insurance? Oh, there's all different types of companies you can go with. The one very popular one is World Nomads. World Nomads has been insuring backpackers for a long time, and they do cover a lot of like extreme or adventure activities. And so in very plain English, you can look on their website and be like, okay, is scuba diving permitted? Is blah, blah, blah. Because if you just go with some whatever insurance company, you're gonna have to look through all this like fine print to make sure you're covered. So with World Nomads Insurance, what I like about them is that they will cover the Pacific Crest Trail and like the Appalachian Trail, because it is like a defined footpath. Some other companies may not cover it because it goes up really high in elevation. So you really have to check the travel insurance policies to make sure everything is covered, like a helicopter evacuation, etc. Okay, how do you edit all your hiking videos with your cell phone? What app do you use? I use iMovie, and I've been using that since I signed up for YouTube back in 2013. There's better programs out there with a lot more fancy features, but I find that the iMovie program is really easy to use. Like, my fanciest stuff is writing captions. Actually, sometimes I do screen, but it's quite fiddly. And I will say iMovie is very buggy. There's been many times I've spent like 2 hours on something complicated with a lot of like split screens and and then it'll just like fail, and I have to edit it all over again. So it can be a very frustrating program, but for just super basic editing, if you have an iPhone, then just use iMovie. You don't have to pay anything for it, it's free. Josephine, thank you for enjoying my Patagonia videos. My favorite trip or trail. It's hard to say. There's so many. It's hard to just pick one, because I get different things out of every experience. For example, on the Camino, on the Ruta de la Lana, I really love the human connections that I had when I was going through these small villages that saw very few walkers. And like one of the days I was just walking around this little village, and there's this old lady, and she invited me into her house, and we had tea and snacks, and we had a nice chat. Well, she didn't speak any English, and I used my very limited Spanish with the help of translation. So we tried to have a meaningful conversation, but it was a lot of smiling and very basic stuff. What was the question again? My favorite trip or trail? Yeah, so I don't know. I like all of them. Who designed your logo? That's a funny story. Well, I guess it's not that funny. There's this website called Fiverr, and so people post like little jobs that they can do for $5. So I went on Fiverr, and there's like a million people you can choose from. So I just picked one guy, and I said, can you make me a logo that has beer, mountains, here's a picture of me, here's my name, just here's $5, show me what you got. And then that's what he came up with. So it's my $5 logo. Have you trekked Scotland or Tibet? Jeff? No, I have not been to Scotland. I was going to do the West Highland Way after the Continental Divide Trail last year, but Continental Divide Trail was jacked up because of the snow year, so that threw away all my set plans, so I missed out on doing it. I still really want to do the West Highland Way in Scotland, and I will definitely get there and climb Ben Nevis and everything else. As for Tibet, I had looked into either entering or leaving Tibet via Kathmandu and doing like a trip that way. At the time I was looking into doing it, the border was kind of shut and it was hard to get permits, so I kind of missed my chance. It opened up again, now it's open, but of course traveling within China is dicey. Traveling anywhere is dicey. So eventually I will also get to Tibet because I would like to go to Everest Base Camp on the Tibet side. Where did you go on your world trip besides Tanzania and India? Who lived there, so I stayed with to London first time being the only time I've been in London, and then traveled up through Namibia using this is all by myself with some like capital cities or hostels. I could have a computer and get emails back and forth, but no GPS on my phone. I figure out everything with a thorough Lonely Planet guide. It was very, very challenging. So yeah, so I went through Namibia, Zambia, kind of a little bit of Zimbabwe, Malawi, a lot of time in Tanzania, Kenya, and Ethiopia, and then I went over to India, and then spent a lot of time in Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Borneo, Singapore. I forget exactly where. And then I was to Canyon, South America for another 2 months. At that time, after 8 months, like I felt like I had enough. And so I ended my trip a little short. Oh, I've been on for quite a while.